Hello everyone. Today we are going to start a new chapter of class 11, that is photosynthesis in higher plants. Now photosynthesis is such a topic which you had been reading from your junior classes, and we all know that it is a process by which the autotrophs, they prepare their own food utilizing sunlight, utilizing water, carbon dioxide, and of course a very important pigment present in them, that is called the chlorophyll. Now this, how easy I am telling and how easily now you can understand, was not as simple when it was initially worked upon by the people. Now the reason behind is that at first it took many years for the scientists to understand that the green plants, what are the various raw materials or the components which are important for doing the process of photosynthesis by the higher plants. And it was the cumulative effect of the various scientists that resulted into the establishment of the fact that what are the raw materials which are actually needed for the process of photosynthesis. So in this regard, you also have done various experiments in class 10 and learnt also. Perhaps you remember about one experiment, that was a plant was destarched and it was kept for that is your 48 hours in a dark room to get rid of the already prepared starch in the body, and then one leaf was plucked from that plant and it was tested for starch. And when it was tested with iodine, it did not give a positive result of starch. That means it did not change the color of the leaf into blue-black, indicating that no starch is prepared in the absence of sunlight, indicating that sunlight is one of the essential raw material for the process of photosynthesis. Then you remember about the experiment of variegated leaf. Of course, variegated leaf means suppose you have a leaf, and in this leaf there are certain portions, suppose these portions or these portions, which are not green in color. These are not green in color. So if these are not green in color and the rest part is green in color, if you perform the starch experiment with this by boiling it in alcohol and then putting that iodine solution to confirm whether starch is present or not, you will find that the places which are green, suppose these are the green areas, okay, so these are the green areas. So the green areas will respond to the iodine test, changing themselves into blue-black color, whereas this region of the leaf, which was some differently colored, either it is yellow or white like money plant or croton leaves, so they will not respond to the starch experiment and they will be giving the color of the iodine. There will not be any change in the color, no blue-black color will appear in these two regions. So that was an experiment related to photosynthesis, indicating that chlorophyll is also essential for the process of photosynthesis. And finally, if you remember, there was another experiment to prove that carbon dioxide is essential for the process of photosynthesis, in which we had taken a potted plant and in that we had taken a leaf, and in this leaf half portion of the leaf was inside some container like this. Suppose if it is a bottle, like this, and this bottle is fixed with a cork at the top, and inside this bottle is your KOH, okay, so KOH, potassium hydroxide. So potassium hydroxide, when it is taken in this container and half of the leaf is introduced into this container and rest half is getting all the essential raw materials for the process of photosynthesis like sunlight, like carbon dioxide, water and all, then if we take out now this leaf after say one day and then perform the starch experiment, we will find that this portion which was inside the container containing the KOH did not respond to the starch experiment. It did not change its color to blue-black, whereas the one which was outside the container getting all the raw materials including the carbon dioxide, it appeared blue-black in color. So this experiment indicates that carbon dioxide is also one of the essential raw material for the process of photosynthesis. So these were the things which we have read it in our earlier classes. Now we are going to study from this chapter, that is photosynthesis in higher plants, about the early experiments done by the scientists. Now among them, the first experiment which is discussed in your book is about Joseph Priestley. Now this man, Joseph Priestley, in 1770 performed a simple experiment. And what was his experiment? He took a bell jar. Now this is called a bell jar, and he inverted it. That means the bell jar is actually, if you just make it upside down, then air can get inside it. Now when you just make it upside down, then no more air can enter, and you can just make it airtight by using Vaseline or petroleum jelly or like that. Okay, so in that he kept a rat and he kept a burning candle, and after some time it was noticed that the rat was feeling very uneasy and the rat died. Okay, and he was really a bit, disheartened to see that the organism, poor creature, has died. Now he thought of a plan, or he got an idea in his mind that, okay, let us see what happens if I keep a potted plant, a small potted plant, green plant, a burning candle, and the rat inside the bell jar. Now when he kept all the three things inside this bell jar, and he noticed that neither the candle extinguished, in this case, the candle also extinguished after some time. The rat also died, the candle also extinguished, but in this case the plant was also remaining healthy, the rat was also surviving, and the candle was also burning. Now from this he got an idea that maybe some stale gases which were actually released in this bell jar because of the burning of the candle or because of the breathing of this animal resulted into deficiency of oxygen, which has resulted into the death of this mice and the extinguishing of this candle. Whereas in this case the stale air which were released by that of this rat and that of the candle was actually purified by that of this green plant, and that resulted into recycling up of the used oxygen within the bell jar, and that continued the burning of the candle as well as the survival of the rat. So this was the first experiment in terms of your early experiments related to that of photosynthesis discussed in your syllabus. The next thing is about this person called Jane Ingenhousz. Now Jane Ingenhousz, what he did is that, to prove that yes, the gas which was released by this experiment conducted by Joseph Priestley is oxygen or not, he did one experiment. He took some aquatic plants. The name of that aquatic plant is Hydrilla, and he took one inverted funnel. This is a funnel, inverted funnel. In that funnel he kept the aquatic plant and upside down, and the stems were facing towards the end of the funnel, that is from the place where the funnel's neck points out, and to it he just put one inverted test tube containing water in such a manner that it was filled first completely up to brim with water, and then slowly and gradually it was put into this beaker containing water in such a manner that all the water present in this test tube does not comes out all of a sudden. Okay, and this setup he kept undisturbed in open air with proper sunlight, and after half an hour he noticed that some bubbles were coming out, were raising from that of the ends of the Hydrilla plant, and they were getting accumulated at the other end of the test tube. Now to know whether this gas was oxygen or not, he brought one burning matchstick and to the mouth of this that is your test tube containing this gas which is accumulated at the end, by just holding it in such a manner with the thumb that all the water is eliminated out, but the gas, at least some part of the gas remains over there, and he noticed that the matchstick burnt brilliantly, indicating that the gas which is accumulated here is the oxygen gas as a result of the activity, that is the photosynthesis performed by this aquatic plant which is called Hydrilla. Now later various other scientists also performed the experiments related to that of the photosynthesis, in which it was proven that if we take a prism and we allow the sunlight to pass through it, now which wavelength of the light was ideal for the plants to do photosynthesis by the algae which is called as your cladophora. Now this way Engelmann, the name of the scientist was your Engelmann, and similarly there were other scientists who proved that as a result of photosynthesis starch was prepared by that starch test using the iodine solution. So this way the early experiments were done related to that of photosynthesis, in which we had come to know that the raw materials which is required by the plants for doing photosynthesis were carbon dioxide, it was water, it was your sunlight, and of course it was the green pigment which is the chlorophyll. So we will continue with the next class related to where does actually photosynthesis takes place. Now this is the initial part, the introductory part of the chapter, photosynthesis in higher plants. Please go through the experiments, the early experiments discussed in your NCERT book, and also this video to understand the concept well. That's all for today's class.